Hello, my name's Jean Gross and I'm a director of the SEAL community, and I want now to tell you a bit more about the SEAL community and how you can use it. What the SEAL community is, it's a website primarily which has a lot of teaching and learning resources, other types of resources, a termly newsletter, but above all else it's a community. It's a place where like-minded people can learn together, people who are interested in what I call social and emotional learning, in children and young people's well-being and their mental health. People who believe that one really important purpose of education is to help children and young people do the things you see here, be able to talk about feelings, be able to get on with others, resolve conflicts, work positively through strong feelings, and manage the relationships in their lives. Now, those skills collectively can be called social and emotional learning. They come in 5 areas. The first is self-awareness, understanding yourself, recognize your own feelings, being able to describe them. Then there's managing feelings. Then there's motivation, how to set yourself goals, work towards them, stick at things, bounce back after failure. Empathy, the vital skill of being able to understand other people's perspectives and feel with them and for them. And social skills, relationships, friendships, getting on with others, group work, working productively in groups and pairs in schools, being able to resolve conflict. Those 5, the big 5, form the basis of the SEAL programme, which was a set of teaching and learning resources originally developed in England and used by the majority of English primary schools at that time and by an increasing number of secondary schools. In 2011, the Welsh Government decided that they wanted to take on this programme and had the resources adapted and translated so that they could be used in that context. But the problem was that after that period, 2005 to 2011, the resources were really hard to find on the web. You'd have to delve deep. So what we did was set up a place where all those resources still exist and could be easily found. We set up the SEAL community to find the resources and search them. But also, things change, since 2011, all sorts of developments in this field, things like mindfulness, for example. So we wanted to continually add to the resources, add new resources that would fit with the overall SEAL framework. And we wanted to provide a one-stop shop, a home, if you like, for all that's new, for research and news and new resources on mental health, well-being, social emotional learning. On the website, you will find all the original national resources, and that includes assemblies, lessons, ways of reinforcing what happens in taught lessons across the school day, plus many more resources that we've added since then. You'll also find the latest news and really interesting research and case studies from schools that are doing interesting things in this field and have shared them with us. Now, there's no shortage of resources on well-being and mental health, are there? Every website you look at, every newsletter you open, it seems to have a whole lot of resources. But the problem for me is that it's a bit of a patchwork. There's a bit here, a bit there. They're not easily organised into a coherent framework. And that is what SEAL aimed to do. It aimed to provide a framework that had a progression in learning from the age of 3 to the age of 15, so that what children learn would not repeat. It would be like any other area of the curriculum. You wouldn't go over and over doing the same thing. So, for example, if you were working on feelings and you were age 10, 11, 12, you might be looking at complicated feelings, embarrassment, resentment. Whereas if you were age 5, 6, you might be looking at simpler feelings, angry, scared, cross, mad, and so on. So there had to be this progression. There had to be ways of taking what was learnt in actual taught time, so personal and social education time, and reinforcing that throughout the school day, in the classroom and out of the classroom. So we added ways that that learning could constantly be reinforced. We wanted ways of involving parents in this, so there are take-home resources to work with families. And then there's ideas for small group work, actual small group work sessions. Now, primarily the SEAL is a universal resource. It's for all children. But there are children who need a bit more. And for those, we devised the small group work that builds on what everybody else is doing rather than being separate and distinct. I want to give you an example of the idea of progression in learning. So if we take the skill of how to cope when you're new to a group or you feel you don't belong, how could you develop that skill and develop the skills of other children to support you when you feel you don't belong, you feel isolated, you're new? How could you develop that over different year groups? So ages 3 to 5, it might be as simple as knowing how to be kind and welcome a newcomer. At age 5 to 7, it might be how can you make someone feel welcome? And how can you explore similarities and differences between people in a group? At age 7 to 9, getting into the feeling, how can you get empathy so children know what it feels like to be new, perhaps new to a class, or not feel that you belong? Knowing how to join a group, there are skills involved in joining a new group, and we try to teach those skills. For older children, the SEAL work in this area gets into doing something new, not just being new in a setting, but what does it feel like to do something new, and how can you deal with that? And how can we help all people feel welcome and valued? When we get into the secondary age group, we might explore how to make people feel at ease, a really useful social skill. We might, for older children, move on from this idea of actually being kind and welcoming to how can you help people help themselves? How can you help someone who's new or feeling they don't belong to find solutions for themselves? And then in the older age group, how can we teach those skills of how children can use mediation, active listening, and support others in difficult or conflictual situations? So you get the idea that there is a progression, and that's this is just one example. There are many other areas. Now, how do you use the SEAL website? That's what I want to go on to now. First thing is you can access all these national resources just by clicking the tab at the top of the website, National Resources, and they will come up, and on the right you'll see a list of categories that they're in, and you can choose categories. A particular type under the national resources is called Getting Started with SEAL, and that is useful because it has within it a progression in learning objectives for different age groups across the all 5 areas of social emotional learning. And you can use that in any school, whether you're using the actual SEAL program or your own curriculum. If you want to introduce something new, just click on the National Resources on the top bar and then click on the Getting Started with SEAL tab. So that's one option, and I really would recommend you look at Getting Started with SEAL because it has a whole lot of information about what SEAL is and how to use it. You can also browse by theme and category. When you're in the national resources, there's these menus, and you might choose a curriculum resource in Welsh medium. So you can put combinations together to have particular resources come up. So curriculum resource is a really good one because that is basically the lessons, the classroom materials, but there's also assemblies, small group work, and so on. So that's one way of using the site to actually use the National SEAL resources as the programme was originally devised. But there are other options. You can use everything that's on the SEAL website in a pick and mix way to find and drop in resources into your own curriculum framework. If you have an existing framework for developing these skills, then you might, for example, be working on transition. Now, one way of working on transition would be in primary schools, there's a whole theme, there's a whole half term of work on changes, which includes transition. So you can follow the SEAL program, or if you have your own curriculum there, you can simply search the website, put transition in the search box, and it will come up with resources. Similarly, you could do that for resilience or mindfulness. This one here, emotions, I put in a search for emotion, and the first resource it came up with is this very useful emotion wheel and ideas for using it in the classroom. So use the search function to find resources for particular topics that you're working on. This is another example. I put in resilience, and it came up with a whole load of resources on teaching and learning resources on resilience. Then that was the original SEAL materials. The further option is that you can access all the materials we've added to the National SEAL programme since 2011. And for these, of course, you have to be a member for this. You have to be a paid up member. You click the members tab at the top of the home page, and you'll find all those resources, the newer resources. They're organised in a particular way. Firstly, they're organised by their type. Are they lessons? Are they staff development? Are they assemblies? But they're also organised by what we call the SEAL themes. The original SEAL programme was designed as a series of themes that went through the year, broadly in primary, half-termly themes, in secondary rather longer themes. The primary, as you go through the year in September, you start with New Beginnings, and that theme, all the learning materials, assemblies, work with parents, small group work, it's based on creating a sense of community at the start of the year. How do we want to be together? How do we want to make our school be? Then Getting On and Falling Out would be later. That will be the second half of the autumn term. And that is exactly what it says on the tin. It's about friendships, relationships, anger, conflict, working in groups. I'll go through the secondary equivalents in a minute. Going for goals, we set that in January to link with New Year's resolutions. And that is about motivating yourself, setting yourself targets and goals, bouncing back after failure, keeping on trying. Good to be me, the next theme, is partly about recognizing your own strengths, but a lot of it is about managing strong feelings, dealing with worries and anxieties, for example. So it's very much a mental health theme, that one. Relationships has various elements. It covers a lot of the emotions that happen in the context of relationships, like guilt, embarrassment, and jealousy. It also has a lot of work on empathy, and it has a whole section of work on how we deal with loss in all its forms, loss and bereavement. And then finally, at the end of the school year, the last half term, the theme is changes, moving on, transition, and in general, how do we deal with change psychologically, and how can we make sure it's productive for us? The secondary themes, they begin with a theme that's just for Year 7. It's called A Place to Learn, and it's learning materials about bonding and creating a new sense of belonging in Year 7 in a new school, and how do you want to be and how will you learn. The next theme, Learning to Be Together, exactly parallels Getting On and Falling Out. It is about group work, conflict, friendships. Keep on Learning parallels Going for Goals in primary, and that is about setting yourself goals, working very much about learning and how you can be a good learner. And then Learning About Me is about feelings, worries, anxieties, stress. It parallels the Good to Be Me theme in primary. So those are the themes, and are very useful if you want to know more about what's in each theme. You can go to the National Resources tab and choose Curriculum Guidance. Click on these documents, what's covered in secondary SEAL, content mapped for each theme, or what's covered in primary SEAL, content mapped for each theme. That will give you a complete picture of the detail of what's covered in each theme, so that when therefore you go to that theme in the new resources, the resources for members, you'll know what they're all going to be about. They're going to be about what that theme covers, but you don't have to use the theme method of organization. You could again simply put in a search for anything you're looking for, and I'm pretty sure it will come up with something that you may have found useful. Now, it's hard to keep up to date, isn't it? There is so much coming at us about mental health and about well-being. So what we do is we read all of that, really, and we cull the very best of it, and then we put it together for you in a termly newsletter, which will have any news, it will have policy developments, it will have new research, and it will have new resources that we've come across that we quality assure, and we're sure that they look good, and it will have new case studies from schools. Those case studies come from you. They come from practitioners who've told us about their work, and we're always very keen to hear from you. So do get in touch. There's a contact form at the top of the website. Do get in touch to tell us what you're doing, or to ask any questions. If, for example, you can't find something you want on the site, or you're not quite sure how to use it, just use the contact and that will come to me, and I'll do my very best to answer you. So I hope you enjoy using the SEAL community and being part of it. Thank you for listening. Goodbye for now.